Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Fierce Honest Hearts. I am Heidi Ferguson. Next to me is Fereshta Ramsey, and we're glad you're here if you're watching live. And if not, feel free to, comment when you do or raise your hand or send a like, but certainly let us know you're here. End of January, like we survived the month. I feel like, survived the month of January. It kind of feels big. It's the 31st. I'm like, wow, we got through it. And I think I'm naming that because I don't know exactly I think our weather is similar in your world and my world. It's been a very gray and rainy January. And I mention this because I distinctly remember, and I'm pretty sure it was the year 2006, around 5, 6, and we had a long winter like this. And I can almost distinctly remember the day that my seasonal affect disorder kicked in. And I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I really wasn't aware of what was going on. And then I started seeing a therapist and we kind of worked things out and I figured it out. And so to have the awareness and to know that this might be going on for you, just know that it might be. And because if it doesn't, if it's not happening with the rest of the cycle of the seasons and all of that, then it might be a seasonal thing for you. And know that it's real, know that it does pass, it kind of works its way through. And if you need support, reach out for support. I cannot stress that enough. Don't try to do it alone because it's really hard. It's really, really hard. So overall, I'm doing well. I feel like this season of anxiety has been so up and down and kind of all over the place. And this week, I would say it's only Tuesday, but I'm feeling better this week. Feeling more resourced and really appreciating my friends and people who have the ability to hold space for me and just so I can be myself and really kind of lay it all out there. And of course, you're one of those people. Yes, thank you so much. I don't know if I have anything else on my agenda. Let me say one last thing. I have such a deep appreciation for my friends who know me well and appreciate and really kind of have this humor around what I'm about and really get me. And the reason I'm saying this is because I met with a friend last week for coffee that I haven't seen for a couple months. And she knows that I love dachshunds, the little wiener dogs. And she got me this wiener dog stress squeezy. It is hilarious. I laughed so hard when she was like, I don't know if you're going to stress it or not, but I found this bubble. And I was like, oh my God, you know me so well. So anyway, I'm appreciating the humor around that. And also when our friends see us in all of us and they really know who we are in all of it, is such a sweet thing that I'm really appreciating. Yeah. So that's my check-in.
Thank you for that. Thank you for just acknowledging this is the time for many people with seasonal affect disorder. And while there's resources and there's help, there's also just the suck of it, right? And people, I imagine, year after year trying to work with it, master it, learn from it. Um, it feels to me like a very ongoing process for a human. Thank you for naming that because, yeah, this is that time for a lot of people. And then just feeling your appreciation, as one of your friends, but also feeling grateful for your other friends. I don't know it's a weird feeling, but it's just like, I'm grateful there's other people holding you too. I'm grateful to them because that means your well-being is being promoted. So yeah, there's has me feeling my love for you and being like, oh, thank God you've got good people in your corner. And may all beings have good people in their corner. I don't think we're meant to do it alone, as we've said so many times. Yeah, how's that land for you? Just like,
Um, I'm appreciating that you're appreciating, right? And so, and I think I'm really appreciating that you're naming it because I've been in relationships, friendships where I was the only person holding everything for the other person. I was the everything to the other person.
yeah.
And it, and I can hold a lot. I mean, I know that I have that ability, but I can't hold everything for one person. I have my own stuff. I have my own agenda. So and I'm a lot for me with humor. Like I'm a lot for myself. But I know that about myself.
Hmm.
And so if we can, as human beings, use our resources, whatever they are, and resource as many people as we can for certain things, the
Hmm.
better off we're going to be. Like
Hmm.
she and I have a very different conversation than you and I have, that Lindsay and I have, that, or Janice and I. We have a very different relationship, and it supports me in being much more well-rounded in my world, in my life. Um, and even our similarities, like my similarities with her are different than with you, than with, and I like that because it expands my perception.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I want that. I need more of that in my life. Um, yeah. And I'm so, and it's another reason that I love being a woman, because we have this natural ability to create relationships with other women, with, um, and that's not to, dispel men and what they have. And I'm sure that there are men that have, several friendships or more than that, but it comes very naturally, I feel like, to us. It's not for some of us. Let me say that it comes naturally for some of us, and for me, it's taken literally a lifetime to create the relationships that are really meaningful and that I want in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel relaxed hearing you
Mm,
name that and relieved, right? Like, as you said, having been like the one and only for somebody. And I think someone very dear to me, I feel like I've been in that position recently. And then hearing of a friend or another loved one coming in is like, oh, okay, I can drop the rope for a little bit. I can take care of me and still feel love and compassion without. I just think it's really unfair when we do that to people.
you too.
I'd say my ex-husband not having his own circle of friends, and I
Mm,
get that this can be common with men sometimes. Um, he really looked to me
mm,
for, I kind of want to say all the things,
mm.
and it's near impossible to be all the things to somebody.
Yeah.
And like you said, when we have that village, we get all these perspectives and all this modeling and all these transmissions that are different.
Mhm.
And it does, of course, it makes you more well-rounded
Yeah.
than going to the same person over and over again with the one perspective,
Right.
right? Like I almost picture like someone helping you see it from different angles um,
Yes.
each time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm resonating with that. I feel really blessed to be held by many, many, many good people. And they're people that I've held too, of course. But as you were saying that, I was picturing times when I was just in the ugly cry, in the messy, in the, I just had a conflict with my partner. Are you around? Just raw, vulnerable. Lindsay actually came to the rescue one of those times, many of those times, but the specific one I'm remembering. And she just brought a picnic under a tree and just sat there with me as I cried and went through my process, and like didn't solve what I had to go deal with at home. But oh my God, was it like balm for my heart? It was soothing. And I got perspective that I can't get when I'm activated, at
Right.
least not from myself very well.
Right. Yeah,
Right. And from people we trust, that really sinks in,
it does.
their feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. And I guess my check in is I'm just in like full school mode. Today's the last day of exams, and I've been doing video reviews, and I've been um, really enjoying being a teacher.
Mm.
Like to my marrow, it's hard to explain. It's such a nurturing kind of job. And when I nurture, I find like my heart is full.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I feel a glow. I feel like it was purposeful. And I had to give some tough love to a few of the students between yesterday and today. And in service to their breakthrough, in service to them uh, being better coaches and maybe checking some of their strategies. And I always kind of go, oh, was that too spicy? But it was honest, and it seems to land. But I always have, there's just a little caretaker that still goes, oh gosh, I don't want to hurt the cubs, as a mama bear, like, and they're not kids, right? So
Right.
there's that too.
Right.
But yeah, really deep appreciation for what it means to teach, and how much, if I really look back, I've always had the heart of a teacher,
Mm.
even when I hadn't yet been one.
Uh-huh.
Um, my cousin Sabrina and I, when we were like 7, 8, 9, 10, I'd create like tests and exams and then make her do them. God bless her. And then I'd grade them. Like, what kid does that? Right.
So funny.
So there was something there in like,
Yeah.
I don't know. And teaching now is so different. I feel like growing up, teaching was like someone standing there talking at us
Yeah.
and us just having to, I don't know, take it. And what teaching has become, at least in my world, is so much more collaborative.
Mm.
It's like, hey, what do you think you were doing there? What was your intention there? Or, were you feeling nervous? Like, let's talk about this. It feels so collaborative.
Uh,
And maybe how teaching is meant to be, really, the best of it.
right.
That's us like putting our heads together. So I wonder, as I share that with you, like, have you ever had any teachers where like you felt, as much as one can feel eye to eye with a teacher?
Yes. In college,
Mhm.
I was, for those of you who don't know, I was the fashion design major. And so there were a lot of, long nights, all-nighters and all that kind of stuff. And our labs were 3 hour, our labs, which were twice a week with the class, were 3 hours long. So it's a long class, but
Mhm.
those were my favorite. And I remember there was one project that I was working on in design one. And we were to create animal skins, two-dimensional animal skins with color. And I had done what I was going to do on my whatever dimensions it was on the board. And then I had done a layer of rubber cement. I had a candle burning
Oh,
on my work table, which was where I was working. And the fumes. It literally, in the confines of those dimensions, it lit up and the flames went all, I mean, it was, I was like, oh my God. And this is probably, I don't know, 12:30, 1 a.m. on a Saturday.
Oh.
I was terrified. And I went out into the hallway. I didn't have an extinguisher. I went out into the hallway and anyway, so long story short, it was fine. But in my opinion, I had thought I had ruined this project. I mean, it was out. I mean, I had put so many hours into this. So anyway, I was like, I got to take it to class because the class was Monday and I didn't. So I did. And he was phenomenal. He was just like, tell me about this. How did you, because, you know, we have to present it, do a whole thing. And I'm like, are you on drugs? Like, I was like, what do you mean? He's like, this is a skin. If I ever thought skin, this is a skin. And so we had a conversation later and he's like, Heidi, look, I know you thought of this as an error, as a mistake, but when something like this happens, take it and run with it. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And I have to say, it really shifted the way that I look at and see myself, see my work. And he was like, there's nothing to be afraid of here. Like when you do a presentation, just have your own back, be confident, talk about it like this is what it is, because this is what it is. And I was like, oh, okay. And it took me, I mean, that was my freshman year. Thank God it was my freshman year. And it took me another 3 years to like really ground that into myself. And so by the time I was creating my collections, I was like, damn, I got it. Like there was nothing that was off the board for me. And I was like, I'm really doing this. And it made every project, every piece I worked on, no matter what it was, whether it was with fabric or found objects or whatever, it just made every project that I did that much more joyful and liberating and fun. And I was like, I don't give a shit because I don't care about it, but I love this so much. That's what matters to me. And it was a game changer. It really was.
It feels like a game changer.
Yeah.
To be leading with your heart and with what you love and your enthusiasm and not to be afraid.
Yeah.
What a gift. I'm just so touched.
Huge.
That you had a teacher like that who was like, and this too is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because you were like, I just have tired of my project. This can't be good.
Right. No, I know.
And he's like, here we go. This is creation.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm so glad I asked you that. That's so rich for me just to hear that.
Thank you. I didn't realize that was what my response, what I was going to talk about, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, very distinctly.
Well, I'm thinking of like more fixed mindset teachers or rigid teachers who might have shamed you, who might have, there's all kinds of ways that could have gone.
Yes.
That would have been demoralizing.
Yeah.
And what I heard was a real expander, an encourager.
Yeah.
And then how long did it take for you to really get the gift of burning your project? Was it immediate? Was it gradual?
It was pretty immediate. It was pretty immediate because what he does, so what happens is when you're doing a critique, every student has their time to go up to the board and put their piece up and whatnot. And so he is literally physically examining. He's like, how did you do this? And I was like, well, I had a fire. And he was like, what? And he made the whole class come up and look at my project. He was like, look at this, look how she did this. And I'm like, it's not how I did it because it was an accident. He's like, but it is part of your process. And I'm like, okay. He's like, even if it wasn't intentional, this is one of those things they call a happy accident. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he said, I can imagine that it was terrifying for you, that you probably thought your partner was going to, I said, I really thought I was going to catch the whole building on fire. And anyway, so yeah, I mean, when just to get his validation and then the way that his enthusiasm about it and having the whole class come to look closely at it, it was a little intimidating because I was like, oh my God, it felt so, so vulnerable. And but everyone's like, oh my God, I wish I would have thought of that. I'm like, yeah, let's not have any fires. Right.
Yeah, but the distinction I hear him making for you was like, even though that was clearly not your intention, that was totally just a chemical unknown and accident. It is part of the process of that art before you.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe we inspire some teachers out there to be that broad-minded about
Right.
whatever they're teaching.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I'm just thinking of how that could have been a pivotal point in not so great of a way for you.
Yes.
How it could have like pulled you in and constricted you as an artist.
Totally. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that was 30, it was almost 30 years ago.
And it made an
And
impression.
it's a very vivid and clear memory of mine. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ah,
I'm soaking that up. Thank you.
you're welcome. So I'm curious about something, what you shared about you and your cousin
Yeah.
playing school. Her indulging you by taking tests and being graded on them. I'm curious how that, like, how did that feel to you? Did you feel empowered? Did you feel like, oh my God, yeah, I'm really teaching this person? Or I'm curious. Yeah.
I don't have a real clear recollection. I think because I was 19 years older than her.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 19 days older than her.
Okay. I'm like 19 years. Okay.
I kind of had the, like, I can tell you what to do because I'm older than you. You know how siblings can be weird like that?
Yeah.
She was very go with the flow. She continues to be that kind of person. She's like, okay, cool. This is the game we're playing right now. All right. And later we'll play Monopoly because that's what I want to play, right? If I had to guess, because again, I can't really tap into it, it was leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it was, I'm leading this, I'm creating a game and I'm leading and I'm facilitating.
Uh-huh.
And I could imagine that there was still some one up, one down in that, whether I was aware of that or not as an 8-year-old. Again, how siblings are like, well, I'm older than you, so you have to do what I tell you,
Yeah.
that kind of brattiness. But I think there were seeds there of leadership and vision and maybe even my introversion, right? Because that's not really a collaborative game.
Yeah.
I create the thing, you do the thing while I do something else, and then you give that to me and I grade it while you do something else. Like there's a little bit of only child energy in that. So I laugh. I say that with compassion, but I think that was a piece of it. And if I think of as years have gone by, I have efforted, maybe harder than some people, to understand collaboration because I was an only child. Right? It's almost like that muscle wasn't developed.
Yeah.
It had to get developed really fast in partnership and in cohabitation, especially.
Right.
Deep dive for someone like me who had a very independent upbringing and a very independent way of living. I just think I make up a story that people with siblings learn how to share and collaborate better than me.
Maybe. maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am making that as a story because I realize not every patch of siblings did that well,
Yeah.
right? Depending on their parenting and all that stuff.
Right.
But
Right.
I certainly thought like this is what happens when you don't develop a certain muscle.
Mhm.
So now I've got to like, if your legs are strong and your arms aren't, all of a sudden you got to do a lot of push-ups, right? To work with someone who maybe had already built that muscle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about your developing that process? Like what does that look like? I'm really curious because if I think for some people it might come naturally, maybe, but for someone, like you said, who isn't only, um, yeah, what that has been like for you. And where did you learn the skills? Also, I'm
Uh,
curious.
I think little by little, as I had roommates in New York, right? Prior to that, I lived on my own. I think especially because I'm thinking in my early 20s when I was married, but I don't feel like that was the learning grounds as much. Wasn't as conscious about it.
Mhm.
Um, Getting a roommate here, right? And having to work through COVID together. And then Richard and I moving in together through the pandemic. A lot of resistance at first, a lot of like, oh, that's my space, or it was petty, right? It was young and petty a little bit. And then just recognizing I didn't want to feel that way. I think, and I didn't want to have anyone else feel poorly.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of both. Just being like, man, I never had to do this. Even at school, when I think of kindergarten, all the kids are playing, and I liked to like just look at the buttercups in the grass and be left alone. Or
Mhm.
um, I liked doing things in drama and theater that were a little bit more loner. Like, oh, I got to paint the set, but I don't necessarily have to be in the group of people rehearsing. Or
Mhm.
um, I kind of got away with it for a long time, to be honest. Right? But there's benefits
Mhm.
to
Oh,
doing your own damn thing all the time.
definitely, for sure.
And I think when it came to partnership, it started to look more like a cost,
Mhm.
like a deficit.
Mhm.
And it was like, wow, if I want this to work, I can't be so damn rigid about things. And I have to learn how to compromise or at least negotiate with
Mhm.
somebody else's needs. Very difficult. Did not come naturally. No, no.
Yeah.
If anything, what came naturally was a little more egoic and pro self.
Mhm.
So having to be team oriented. I didn't play sports, right? Like where would I be learning this? I think I learned it a little bit being in bands.
Okay.
I was always the front woman. So kind of not really. I was still the teacher giving the exam. It was like if I didn't like that drum beat, we were going to change that drum beat.
Mm.
So there was always, even in that, it was a bit more of a monarchy than a democracy. And at a certain point, that felt lonely.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line. At a certain point, it's like, wow, it's kind of lonely at the top like this.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thanks for asking that. It feels good to integrate. Like, why in the world did I start learning the other way? It's like, oh,
Right.
really, like, yes, I get to do everything the way I want, but it's lonely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Mm. Yeah. Feeling the tenderness of that for sure. Mm. Yeah.
And this is where I have compassion for people because that's where I was developmentally very challenged,
Okay.
stunted,
Mhm.
right? And it wasn't just like, oh, just learn how to share and be cool with people leaving their stuff everywhere. And it was like, oh, goodness, I'm very challenged.
Right.
So when others are challenged, I can see
Mhm.
what a growth opportunity is, and then what a struggle it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. And on the flip side of that, as someone who has been single longer than I've been in relationship,
Mhm.
and moving into relationship or considering moving into relationship, I'm aware of being my own person and not having to tell anyone where I'm going, like really being independent and loving that independence. And I guess what I have a hard time with, like when someone when a couple breaks up, and the person that I'm friends with, let me say that, just whoever that might be, um, because I love my single life so much. It's not that I wouldn't consider, I'm just saying I do appreciate my single life. But when someone really who is struggling with the breakup, and I get that because I've been in that situation too, but feels the need to jump into something else right away, as opposed to taking the time to really be with themselves, to come back to themselves. And it's not as if there's not an opportunity to learn and grow in yourself in a relationship. But
Mhm.
I will say for myself, I find that I can really grow myself with myself. And I do like that time to heal, and grow the things I need to grow, and have deeper awareness, and all that stuff. Um, and I wouldn't say one situation is better than the other. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. Um, but it's just one of those, human nature. It's one of those things in with humanity that is what it is. And I don't mean to be
Mhm.
flippant about it, but that's life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. And, obviously, like different strokes, different folks, right? That whole thing. But I know for me, the bigger the love, the longer I need to grieve. And then the longer I take to come back to trying again.
Yes, me
So
too.
I've always had those respites
Yeah,
between breakups. It's not my nature to jump into something else. If anything, I'm probably hesitant to,
me too. Yeah, me too.
right? So yeah, I hear that. And I know we're managing time here.
Yeah.
If you're okay to go
Yeah,
into
let's pivot to a question.
so we're going into the and cards, which if I figured out who this was from, oh, the Skin Deep. That's the company. Kind of thought it was the Gottmans, but they're not. So you get to pick
Okay,
wherever the middle finger is.
there.
This one?
Hmm.
Oh, ooh, I don't know how this fits for us, but let's see. Let's try. How has having or not having children affected our relationship? I guess we could answer that.
That's actually a really good question.
Yeah.
Really good
Okay.
question.
Well, there we
Yeah. Um, I think it's probably one of the things that I really appreciate,
go.
because there's no competition.
Mm, mhm.
Because my relationships with other women that do have children, that's always the priority, which I completely get, and I completely
Appropriately.
understand. It's
Yeah.
very appropriate. But I don't have that with you. And so there's this real sense of, I don't even know if I don't have the word, but
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating the liberation and the freedom that I have, that you have, that I'm not going to get a text in the middle of this, or a phone call or a Zoom call from a kid. Like I
Or
will
tug
not.
on your skirt.
Right, right,
Like,
exactly. I will not be interrupted. And that I appreciate so much. Really. Yeah.
I love this question then. How fun.
I love this
Okay.
question too. Yeah.
So
So
how
how has not having children, either one of us having children, affected our relationship?
I mean, bandwidth is the first thought that comes to mind, just bandwidth. And I'm grateful not to have had children. You know, the choice to pursue passions and career and purpose, and not to say you can't do all those and have kids. I just didn't feel I had the bandwidth to do both.
Mhm.
I think you get a more passionate, enthusiastic friend also, that's not tired and bedraggled and resentful of her children. I think that would have been true for me. I'd have felt some resentment, regret, and I knew that. I knew that from the get-go. So yeah, you actually get a human who feels purposeful and liberated's a good word. You know, like I could get in the car right now and just drive to Rhode Island for no good reason, but to drive to Rhode Island
Mhm.
and come back. And there's no, short of just saying, hey, babe, FYI,
Yeah.
to Richard, there's nothing more I have to do. And I'm just grateful that I made that choice. So many people in my ear, many, many years ago said, you might regret that choice. And I don't. And I knew there was a risk at some point
Yeah.
that I would.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's given us a great deal of other topics
Yeah.
to focus on together.
Yeah. Yeah. I also want to add that I too have never had regrets. So feeling really good about that. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, I think both you and I could have mothered really well and really lovingly and tenderly and caringly, and just not this lifetime.
Not this lifetime. Maybe
I
another.
wanted, I wanted to rest a little this lifetime.
Me too. Yeah.
Thanks, friend.
Oh,
Good
thank
to be with
you.
you.
Lovely to be with you as always. Thank you to our audience. Again, if you feel led to comment or question or like or subscribe, please do. It helps us with, I don't even know the technology of it, but it just helps.
It helps people find us.
It helps people find us, and share the podcast if you feel led as well.
Yeah, and later today, we'll be launching our Instagram with our first post. So if you are curious, want to follow more beyond the YouTube episodes, conscious.friendships is our handle. And we'll continue to have conversations there around meaningful friendships and what they look like and what they take. It's required.
Yeah. Thank you again.
Thank you, friend.
Until next time.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.